Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sotadeology. In today's video, we're going to dissect the overall reality of the universe by Sotadeology explained. So this is going to be the full video to the short video I uploaded earlier. Just like I said in that short, in today's video, I'm going to challenge all the professors of all the universities in the world, and as well challenge all the scientists of the world who do not believe that wisdom comes from Almighty God. So if there is any theory that can explain the reality of the universe better than what I'm going to share with you today, the owner of such theory should come forward. Probably there could be a debate on that on any public TV show. So now, if the person is able to explain the reality better than what I'm going to share here, then I'm going to bow like this as honor for the for the God of such person. That is to honor the God of that person. But as for me, if I'm able to explain better, then the person will have to bow like this to give honor, great honor to Almighty God that showed me, that inspired me to come up with this solution. I'm referring to Jehovah, I'm referring to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So I'm referring to I am that I am. So I'm a God-made scientist. So take note that the bow is going to be like this, which is to honor and not to worship, just like this. So basically, that is what the challenge is going to be about. So with no further ado, let's dive into it. Now, the topic of today's video is the overall reality of the universe by Sotadeology explained. So it's going to be the full video. So now let me briefly introduce you to what you are going to enjoy in today's video. We're going to use this time energy wave model. You are conversant with this already. And so basically, we're going to go through this, which is using Sotadeology to unravel the mystery of reality. Sotadeology, I told you, is the study of artistic and scientific flipping of a system for balanced solution. So the second thing, the reality of the universe is far beyond what one can be ascertained of by observation or experience. What do I mean by that? So there is a point where observation is delusional of reality, and there is a point where experience is delusional of reality. So now, these are the key two things that we first of all need to understand, because by understanding what I'm sharing here with you, you'll be able to know what our ideal solution would be. So now, experience is delusional at the transiting point of event horizon, as the object traversing the point will not experience any form of break in its movement into the black hole. Meanwhile, the true nature of event horizon is observed by the outside observer as being static in form of break in motion. Balanced solution of time relativistic scaling to speed difference factor of highly energetic momentum. So basically what we have there is that there is a way time usually scale in relativistic to energy to make a balance momentum. And so what we experience here is that as the observer is observing the situation at event horizon, you know that there we have energetic momentum relative to that weak momentum of the observer. Then there will be a possibility of spontaneous symmetry breaking that will enable us to have that break in motion, And so the observer being far away from where the happening is taking place, so would not be able to see the subsequent reality, which is the object entering into the black hole. So the observer will be cut off from the subsequent reality, but only the observer can see the reality at event horizon. Even the object at event horizon will not get to know the reality, because reality will be flipped as past phase. And so that is basically what is happening right there. So this implies that no reality is obtainable by experiencing the highly energetic warping of the event horizon. So that's what that is all about. So now, observation. Observation is delusional of reality. When an observed object that is walking away from the observer is, what I meant by that is that if you have an object moving away from the observer at the walking pace, so the when you have objects moving away from the observer at walking pace, the observer will not be able to get the whole reality based on that relativistic relationship, which is very weak. So the only thing that will allow the observer to get the reality is if the observer could disconnect himself or herself instantly from where he's actually standing. So now, observer walking away from the observer will not be able to see the reality, so he's so strict and out of sight by perspective. Meanwhile, the strict and out of sight object could still be found by the observer only if the observer could instantly move to the location of the object in space by the virtue of time's instancy that is void of relativistic scaling to energy. So the spontaneous symmetry breaking by time to assume its default nature of instancy for true experience in space. So that means that no reality is obtainable by observing weak momentum at a distance. So now the conclusion is Sotadeology is treating reality as the followings. Number one, reality at classical level must be visible at instant transmission of information from quantum awareness to classical awareness. So now, the number two, reality at quantum level must be visible based on relativistic transmission of information from classical awareness to quantum reality or quantum awareness. So now these are the things that will empower us to know what the reality is all about. So basically what we have here, what this is telling us is that reality at the quantum level has to come from the classical level, and that is basically pointing to faster than the speed of light momentum. It is only such speed, such instances that can break the suspension that we have at quantum level. And so for us to have such instances, it means that time will have to assume or resume its default nature. So time is continuous by being relativistic to energy, while energy is discrete while being in relativistic scaling to time. So energy is everywhere, which means that energy has nature of infinity, time has nature of instancy as default. So now these are the facts that we need to know about time and that we need to know about energy. So now let's have a kind of visual representation of what I just explained right there. So now here we see that we have experience. So experience is going to serve as classical reality. And then we have observation here, which is going to serve as quantum reality. Now, based on what we are conversant with, quantum mechanics, you get reality by observing. So when you observe, you collapse the wave function, you get reality. Now, it is so difficult for one to, nullify any of, things that we have been, fed with. But basically, we'll get the reality right by dissecting this diagram now. So now, the momentum from the Big Bang singularity is the kind that expands time energy wave interaction. So now the Big Bang singularity evolves by expanding the time energy wave interaction. So we have this expansion. Now the equilateral triangle that we have here stands for, here we have the constancy of gravity, and this is the value that we have as the classical wave amplitude. And so we have another trajectory, which is the constancy of light. So the constancy of light speed and constancy of gravity speed expands. So basically what we have here, by the time we explore the field interaction, which is electromagnetic field to gravitational field, you see that electromagnetic field is being decreased relative to an increasing gravitational field for us to have convergence of mass. That is basically what we have right here, right there. So now at the extreme end of that symmetric expansion, we have convergence, and the convergence of mass that we have, like what we have up here, is known as classical arbitrary suspension. And so we have another convergence right here, which is known as arbitrary quantum arbitrary suspension. So now basically we can have that idea of illusionary or illusion that we usually experience in terms of infinity, because based on the Schwarzschild solution for Einstein general relativity, we could see that we have two infinities. There is one infinity where there is spontaneous symmetry breaking, and there is another one where there is non spontaneous symmetry breaking. But basically we can say we have suspension that is analytical. Classical suspension will be analytical by nature, while the quantum suspension will be non-analytical by nature. So what we meant by that is, here is where we have spontaneous symmetry breaking, and it transcends the time energy wave model to connect to the real quantum mass worth, which is in this case is positron, because by the time we use this wave amplitude in the formula of everything, so I'm still going to dissect formula of everything for us to understand what the formula is all about. By the time we put this value into the formula of everything, we have this particular output, which is 0.00000143. So this is a suspension that is very close. This one is closer to the 0 point, and this particular suspension that we have, which is the convergence at the extreme end of the constancy of light, which is this one. You can see that in between this particular value and this value, we are supposed to have the real mass worth of electron in the system. It has to be in between. So if you dissect this value up to this last suspension, you can see that the value gets bigger as they move towards the zero. Unlike what we have here. Now, if you should if we should put this wave amplitude into the formula of everything, we'll realize that this arbitrary suspension will get extended bigger. And what that is telling us is that the real mass, the real classical mass what will be shrinked relative to that expanded arbitrary suspension. So this is a kind of suspension that we cannot break its symmetric nature, because it's actually expanding away from the real mass worth. But the real mass worth, here we have that notion of mass convergence that will later break the suspension to have the convergence of C of infinity of electron that we have here. The moment this is broken, there is going to be radiation, and it will convert the negative charge of electron to positive charge to have positron, and that will be injected back into the system. We have momentum into the singularity of the black hole. So that's about this. So now the singularity of the black hole is this, while this is the singularity of the event horizon. Another thing that you need to know is that this singularity, the nature of this singularity is quite different from the nature of this singularity. We have convergence of energy right here. I will shed more light on that when we get to the field. And so we have convergence of mass worth right here, which is convergence of mass. We have convergence of energy. And so if we look at what we have here, since we have convergence of electromagnetic field, we only have electromagnetic field in the suspension that we have here, as we will get to know that later. Definitely, it is the reason we have that notion of not faster than the speed of light, because the real mass work can never transcend the suspension that we have, which is suspended to that electromagnetic field. So now, when you look at this diagram, you can see that we have flipping mechanism all over the whole diagram. Now, the trajectory that we have here is inversely related to the trajectory here. So here we have low energy. So it is from high energy down to the low energy. And even though we have contraction as this energy is scaling wide to time, we still have low energy to have convergence right here. And here we have accumulation of mass worth. You can see that what is happening at the classical region, this whole area is classical region, this whole area is quantum region. So what we have here is different from what we have here. So now, for us to even get to know the flow of time, then the suspension that we have here must be different from the suspension that it means that we must have that nature, that asymmetric or asymmetric nature in the universe for us to really have the flow of time, because the difference in the happenings we determine will facilitate the flow of time that we're going to have. So now, when you now look at this, we have Sotadeology here, which is the relativistic flipping. So now we have expansion here, and so we have contraction right here. And based on that, you can see observation. Here we have the flipping of observation to flipping of experience. And so instant transmission of information from quantum to classical awareness. You see, it's from quantum to classical. Now look at what we have here. Relativistic transmission of information from classical to quantum awareness. So we have the flipping of observation to experience. So everything is being flipped. And so the mechanism of that flipping is Sotadeology, And that is what we have here, the relativistic flipping of experience to observation and vice versa as finite reality of the universe. So it is this flipping is so essential. And so we now have positron here. So the value is going to be the same thing as electrons mass worth, but the charge is going to be quite different. So now, by connecting to the positron, that is going to serve as the consciousness that we usually have, because at that point the infinity will be converted to finite mass worth. You understand? And it is even plausible to have this mass worth here, because the issue of consciousness we have to be something that emerges from nowhere. So consciousness has not to be fundamental in time energy relativistic scaling, and that is why we should always have continuous awareness to be conscious of what we do. So that is being settled right there. And so contracting by observing beyond the constraint of light speed. So basically the solution of what we have here has to be faster than the speed of light. So basically the whole thing is that by having experience to be delusional at quantum level, and then by having observation to be delusional at classical level, that is telling us that the momentum of solution that we're going to have has to come from classical realm down to the quantum, and then it has to be faster than the speed of light. It has to be faster than the speed of light. So basically, it has to be faster than the speed of light, and that is to say that time has assumed its default nature, and so that will break the spontaneous symmetry break. So now, what the formula we use in achieving all this is known as formula of everything. So we're going to briefly dissect the derivation of that formula of everything. So now, FOE, the formula is dt dm equal to capital UM plus 4M. That's what we have here. This 4 stands for time conveying value. Now the capital U stands for strong conveying force, which is SCF. And so this 4M stands for weak conveying force, WCF. So now the capital U that we have here is the constant value of the universe, and that is 2.5 times 10 raised power 39. That is the value. So this is somehow synonymous to Dirac's large number hypothesis, where Dirac happens to be one outstanding scientist. He was very close to getting the reality, and from his equation we were able to get that discovery of antimatter. And so when he discovered that, he discovered a huge gap from the fermions world and that other side. So the gap has to be crossed, and the only thing that we can use in crossing the gap is going to be time. So we're going to use time to cross it, because time is instant and only time can actually cross that huge gap. So now, brief derivation of formula of everything. We have dt dm dt dm equal dt de times de dm. So now the derivation of formula of everything, we have dt dm equal dt de times de dm. So that is chain rule. So we're using chain rule. Now let t equal e square for t equal function of E, which is energy, where E equal m squared plus 1. Therefore, E equal gravitational function of m, thus T equal E squared equal m squared plus 1 square. So by having this description, then when we differentiate the T, the E, we have 2E. And so when we differentiate the E, the M, we have 2M. By chain rule, we have 2E times 2M equals to 4EM. So now we can substitute what we have in this area in our discovery. So first of all, we're going to substitute that in the 4EM. So we have 4 open bracket m squared plus 1 close bracket m. And so we have 4m squared plus 4m. Now the 4m squared stands for strong nuclear force. That is the integration of strong nuclear force. So strong nuclear force has to be the structure of the universe at the nucleus. And then the 4m is the weak nuclear force. And that also is a structure, of the universe at nucleus. So definitely we have two, I think the two, we have two, nuclei like that. And so using 4em, now using 4em of 4m squared plus 1m, placeholder as T equal E squared for T equal function of E, where E equal mc squared. Then squared, just as what we have right here. So by having that, then our solution can then be the TDM equal to 4em, and so we're going to substitute the value to be 4 open bracket square bracket open m dot c squared close square bracket square plus 1, we close the bracket and m. So now here we have integration of this particular value that we have here is the integration of electromagnetic force, and then everything all together is the integration of gravitational force. So that is how we are able to integrate all the 4 forces in the formula of everything. So now we're now going to use the value of the speed of sun's gravitational force, which is this 274 miles per second speed, and then we're going to use 3.00 times 10 raised power 8 squared, which is the speed of light in the formula. So the reason we decided to use the speed of sun's gravitational field is because all the heavenly bodies around the sun, they are being attracted to sun by that gravitational field. So that can serve as generic gravitational speed. So basically we're going to use mass worth in the formula. So we decided not to use the mass worth of sun in our derivation, so there won't be duplication of values. And so now we have our formula of everything to be dt dm equal to 2.5 times 10 raised power 39 m plus 4m. So if we substitute capital U for this constant, the constant speed of the universe, we're going to have dt dm equal to capital Um plus 4m. So that is that. And so right down here, you have link to my research publication right there. And so here, this diagram that we have here is time energy wave model. So I've been using time energy wave model to explain, and that gives us the visual representation of what is obtainable by that formula of everything. So by applying formula of everything, we have the equilateral triangle, and the moment we are being Like if we should put the electron's mass worth into this formula of everything in the place of this m and this m, we're going to get the classical counterpart, which is going to be this 2,277,250,000 kilogram. Now, the moment we have that, we can, because formula of everything feeds back on itself, it's a kind of formula that when you use an input to generate an output, you can use the generated output as input to generate further output. So now we can put this output, the classical output, in the formula of everything to now reconfirm the mass worth of electron. Now to do that, so basically by the time we have this, by the time we supply this, we're going to get this as the extended value. So this will extend the weak conveying force, which is this, at the convergence of arbitrary mass worth. Now, for us to get to the quantum realm, we need to annihilate all the suspended zeros manually. The reason we're doing that is for the fact that it is asymmetric. It is not symmetric, and so by annihilating, we realize that we extend beyond the time energy wave model to connect to the positron as the reality. So basically, by having such, asymmetric trajectory, that excess must be truncated to allow for symmetric nature of the universe. And by having the positive charge that injected this back into the system, that we then get rid of the excess, and then we get connected to this to have the constancy of light. So that is how the equilateral triangle is drawn, and that equilateral triangle is being flipped into the singularity of the future, and that is Sotadeology for you, which is the flipping mechanism of the universe. So now lastly, we're going to look at time energy waves field interactions. Now, the time energy wave field interaction, we only have two fields. So when you look at this region, we only have electromagnetic field right here, and that is the Big Bang inflationary suspension. So the moment we have the Big Bang, we have clumps of energy, and so the suspension is known as inflationary suspension, suspension, right? But immediately after the inflationary suspension, we have relativistic scaling of gravitational field to electromagnetic field. Now you can see how electromagnetic field is getting reduced relative to increasing gravitational field here. So that causes the expansion. So now in the black hole, this is the event horizon. The line here is the event horizon. And at event horizon, we have our reality, which is having time speed, which is instant speed, right from the classical realm down to the quantum realm. So now we can get to know that expanding of time energy wave model is by this rule. So now when we look at the inside the black hole, we can see that we have increasing electromagnetic field relative to decreasing gravitational field right there. And so we have suspension right here. It is known as neutron stars suspension, and inside it we only have gravitational field. So by having that, we know that inside the black hole we have convergence of mass, and so that is the reality of the universe. That is the reality of the universe. So the solution is to have faster than the speed of light from classical realm down to quantum realm. So now you see that even though there is spontaneous symmetry breaking, we know that we have instant speed of time at event horizon, and so everything is being frozen, and so we have where our classical real mass worth is, which is here, and then we have where the real quantum mass worth is, which is here. So we then have the quantum arbitrary suspension and classical arbitrary suspension. So by having that, we still see that the trajectory is lengthy. So it has to be lengthy for the instancy of time's nature to be captured. And basically what I see that we have here is a static field vibrating. We have a static field but vibrating. So the kind of field that we have here is a kind of field that propagates outward. We have a field that propagates outward here in this phase, and we have a field propagating inward here, and at event horizon we have static field vibrating but static. So that is the reality. Even at event horizon we have flow of time because we have the trajectory from classical to quantum, and so we know that the flow is from classical realm down to quantum realm. So that is the reality of the universe. So basically, that is all we need to know about the universe. And as a result of that, we now know that the solution is for us to get the true nature of time as instant or as instancy to get to the reality of the universe. And so that is the whole reality about the universe. So now we know that the asymmetric nature of the universe is what we need to explore in order to get the full reality of the universe. So reality is not obtainable within the symmetric nature of the universe. And that is why spontaneous symmetry breaking is highly needed for us to get the true reality of the universe. And it is for this reason that we need to annihilate suspended zeros in our formula of everything manually. We need to annihilate the suspended zeros manually to explore the asymmetric nature of the universe. So that is that. I remain my humble self, Sotadeology. So I'm going to put link to my novel discovery. My novel research discovery in the description below, so you can explore to work more on that. And then I'm going to then what I would like to say is that help us share this as many times as possible. We want it to travel far and wide so that we can get the necessary advancement in science and technology. And then don't hesitate to subscribe to this channel so as to be notified for the subsequent upload. Thank you. God bless you.